You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And again, thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. We appreciate your time and your work with us and your comments in the YouTube, your comments to us on Twitter, all the interaction that we get from you all. We appreciate to a great degree. We enjoy doing this. This is fun for us, but it's more fun because we get to interact with you, the Sooner fan, and hey, SEC fans. We've had a lot of SEC fans coming in through the YouTube comments lately talking about, hey, they're excited to have Oklahoma. It's a lot better than some of those Facebook SEC groups that are like, I'm tired of Oklahoma and Texas already. Probably more tired of Texas, but I digress. So we've got a mailbag coming to you from our Locked On Sooners Insider Program. You can go subscribe to the Locked On Sooners Insider Program by texting SEC 2024 to get 25% off your first month. Again, text SEC 2024 to 405-817-6711 to get 25% off your first month. Our first question is going to be on position battles. Abe in OKC asks, what's the one position battle you'll be keeping your eye on during fall camp, Jay?
Oh, man. The fun thing is there's so many of them, but I think the one that's really going to be having my attention is going to be corner, right? Who's going to take that second spot with Gentry Williams? Now, the assumption is going to be Woody Washington playing, but based upon how spring camp went and the way that the spring game went, the potential toss going here in the fall, Woody's going to be playing all over the place. So if that's the case, somebody's got to start. There's potentially an emergence of a Jacoby Johnson, right? If Makari Vickers wasn't in trouble, he's probably be the one that would move up as well. But you've got so many corners that's now become, pieces. Des Malone is in that conversation as well because he just transferred in for that reason. So that one to me is the most intriguing, is how we're going to anchor those two corners going into, SEC play.
I'm going to stick on the defensive side of the ball too. I like defensive end. I know Ethan Downs is going to be one of your starters at one of those defensive end spots, but I think like with Caden Woolard, Armason Thomas, Adepoju Adebaware, Trace Ford, like you've got a really, really nice, healthy rotation. And that doesn't even include a guy like Danny Okoye, who could be a sleeper, Nigel Smith, who could factor in as well. So you've got a number of guys. Wyatt Gilmore was a 4-star prospect coming out of high school. Got a number of dudes that could factor into the defensive end rotation, but who starts opposite of Ethan Downs, that's going to be a really intriguing proposition. I'll be keeping an eye on to see who is getting that consistent praise and love when media gets out there to practice or when the coaches speak. So it's going to be really fascinating. Our next question comes from Richard, again, from the Locked On Sooners Insider Program. After the way the game ended with Texas, the T-shirts, the Stutzman speech, Oklahoma only fears God, and Texas fears Oklahoma, Texas will be coming out hitting harder. Will OU be prepared for Texas trying to clap back?
That's a very intriguing question, because first I have to ask the question, does Texas actually care about the rivalry? Because based upon the way that their fans have been running their mouths over the last, few months, making it seem like they didn't even lose the game, is that, that was our Super Bowl. That was Oklahoma's Super Bowl, and that's the only thing Oklahoma cared about. Absolutely. It's a rivalry game. Yes, we've cared about that the entire inception of it. So yes, that is one of the more important things. Hence why Oklahoma decided as an institution that, we're going to be really good at something, right? Based upon our location, it may be tough to attract people. And this, I'm talking about like in early 1900s, we're going to find a way to provide something that people can be proud of. And we've been elite at football ever since. So, but for us, yes, we care about that game. And so I think Texas they're not going to overlook Oklahoma coming to this game, but I don't think they're going to care as much as we do. I don't think they ever do. And that's just the way it's been as far as the rivalry goes. It never feels like Texas cares as much as Oklahoma. And I think that we're going to level up even more at caring. Heck, I don't think they're going to do 49 medicine ball sit-ups now. They're probably going to do, 64 instead. Like, hey, 64 points scored in this game, way more than it should have been. You need to do more of these. So I expect us to care way more than Texas.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be an off week in which this team doesn't care about things, but especially when it comes to Texas week, this team's going to care. And they're going to have a lot to say about it on the field. And you talk to my wife, OU alum ×2, she'll tell you, doesn't matter what else happens in the season, got to beat Texas. And that's, to me, the definition of a rivalry. So I think Oklahoma will be ready. Brent Venables won't let him sleep on it. He won't let him get too high. He spoke about it at SEC Media Days coming out of the Texas game. They were a little bit too high on themselves and the success that they'd had, and it kind of bled into their next few weeks of practice. So, but I don't think it's going to be a concern. Final question that we have from our Locked On Sooners Insider program. This one comes from Lewis in Fort Worth. He says, if you could land just one more recruit in the 2025 cycle, who would it be, Jay?
If I only get one more, it's got to be Michael Fasusi. It's got to be Michael Fasusi. I want the big man, the big lineman. I need that in my life. And, the class right now is shaping out. We're about done, it feels like. And Andrew Babalola, they're both basically at the end because both of them should be committing here in August. And so, yeah, for me, I personally would like to have Fasusi in this class. It gives us a 5-star offensive lineman, one thing that could potentially pacify a lot of Sooner fans that are really into recruiting. I mean, it's not going to shut them up. Nothing shuts up a fan when it comes to recruiting because they always want more. And I get it, but at the same time, it's like, come on, guys. Yeah.
And to be greedy, I'm going to say Jonah Williams. I know Oklahoma wasn't in the top 5. I know Oklahoma hasn't been considered a leader for quite some time, but I'm going to get greedy about it. He's an elite player. And he might only be considering Oregon and Texas A&M and LSU. And there's one other team in there. I can't remember who it is. But I'm not going to sleep on Brandon Hall and Brent Venables and Zach Alley's ability to get back in the race and make themselves a player in this recruitment over the next 5 months until the early signing period. Actually surprised me that he set a commitment date. I was not expecting that. I was expecting this to be one of those recruitments that went all the way to December.
Honestly, it feels like it does.
Huh?
I'm saying, honestly, it feels like it does. It feels like it's going to go to December regardless.
I was about to say just that. He could commit on August 24. I don't think it's going to matter. Remember, Peyton Bowen was committed, and then he flipped, and then he flipped again. So again, I'm not going to sleep on this team's ability to go recruit an elite defensive player, and I'm going to get greedy again with the defensive side of the ball, and I want an elite defensive player. So that'd be my pick, but I would not be crying if the only one else that they got in this cycle was Michael Fasusi. That'd be huge as well.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest pickup you can get, right? I still feel like he's the David Stone of this class. He's the one that you get. It becomes the major anchor to anything else you do. And honestly, you could even leverage him to start to try to flip other players. That's probably one of those you could do. And Fasusi has enough influence that, he could be that guy outside of your quarterback that can go out there and recruit other guys. So, yeah, but I get the Jonah Williams piece because that would be just a massive splash, just like Peyton Bowen. Perfect analogy, perfect comparison, because that's what that was. When you win Peyton Bowen like that, even though the quarterback was working his butt off to try to sell him, that's a huge pickup, and that could change the trajectory of what you're trying to do in that area. So, yeah, I'm all for that as well. It's kind of interesting because, like, one of our bigger prospects we went after was at Max Granville. He just reclassified, and he's going to be playing at Penn State next week.
Yeah.
That's just bananas to me.
Wow.
Like, wait, what? So he wasn't even going to end up in the 25 class anyway, because that's probably what he was going to try to do here at Oklahoma if he decided to come here. So, yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, it reminds me of when Quinn Ewers reclassified like a month before his senior season was going to start at South Lake Carroll.
Yeah.
I get it. You're going to do what you're going to do. And I was talking to some other guys about it, just like, getting a head start on your collegiate career. It's not a bad idea. At the same time, dude, how do you feel about leaving your buddies like a month before the season starts? Now, maybe everybody knew all along and that was just part of the plan and it was going to happen anyway. But if it wasn't, that'd be a really, really tough pill to swallow if you're other members of that defense and you're kind of expecting him to be on the sideline or on the field with you. And I mean, he's a game-changing player, and it's going to definitely change the trajectory of his high school squad. But anyway, that's a digression. But I cannot wait to kind of figure out how the rest of this cycle goes, because Oklahoma's still trying to get Michael Fasusi to commit. Nebraska might have become the leader for Christian Jones, but again, I'm not going to count Oklahoma out of that recruitment at all. Andrew Babalola might be trending towards Michigan or Stanford a little bit more than Oklahoma right now. Jonah Williams might not be considering Oklahoma, but again, I'm not going to count him out of that at any stretch, even if they might be a dark horse in the recruitment. So it's going to be fascinating to see where that goes. If you want to have your questions answered here on the Locked On Sooners podcast, make sure you subscribe to the Locked On Sooners Insider Program by texting SEC 2024 to get 25% off your first month. Again, that's 405-817-6711. Text SEC 2024 to get 25% off your first month at 405-817-6711. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in and being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. Follow Jay on Twitter at Unfair Sports, myself at John 9 Williams. The show is on all the socials at Locked On Sooners. Again, go to YouTube, hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. And also go check out the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll catch you then. Boomer.
Sooner.